Naples, 1923. A pushcart vendor on Via Toledo wraps a slab of fried bread around a smear of lard and a scrape of garlic, charges a customer 10 centesimi, and watches a dock worker eat the most satisfying lunch of his week. That sandwich fed half the city. Number 23 was so cheap that families ate it 3 times a day. Number 14 was banned by health inspectors in 1938. Number 4, your nonna swore could cure a hangover. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will see your kitchen differently. If old Italian wisdom matters to you, take a second to subscribe. It costs you nothing and helps keep these stories alive. Now, the countdown. Number 25, pane e olio, stale bread rubbed with raw garlic, drowned in the cheapest olive oil from the bottom of the tin, finished with a pinch of coarse sea salt. Your great-grandmother in a Tuscan farmhouse made this every single morning for the men going out to the fields. The bread was 4 days old, hard as a roof tile. The oil cost 12 lire a litre in 1947. The Accademia Italiana della Cucina records this as the oldest documented breakfast in the Central Peninsula. We pay €6 for avocado toast in a Milan cafe. She fed 5 children with what we throw in the bin. Quick, cheap, nourishing. Nothing was wasted. Number 24, panino con la frittata di cipolle. A cold onion omelette fried in lard the night before, slapped between 2 heels of yesterday's bread and wrapped in newspaper. Sicilian bricklayers in Palermo carried this to building sites every morning of the 1950s. 3 eggs, half an onion, a handful of stale crusts. Total cost, roughly 45 lire. The Touring Club Italiano survey of working-class lunches in 1956 found this to be the single most common packed meal in southern construction. We microwave a frozen panino at the petrol station for €4. He ate cold eggs on hard bread and built the cathedral. Number 23, pane a pomodoro. A torn hunk of country bread, a ripe tomato cut in half and crushed against the crumb until the bread turns red, salt, oil, basil, if the windowsill pot was alive. Apulian children ate this every afternoon between June and September from the 1890s through the 1960s. The tomato came from the courtyard. The bread came from Sunday's bake. The total cost was 0. Slow Food Italy lists this as the foundational poor child snack of the entire South. We buy bruschetta in a jar from a delicatessen for €9. Nonna handed it to you wrapped in waxed paper at the back door. 3 ingredients, 1 lifetime of memory. Number 22, mozzarella in carrozza. 2 slices of stale bread, a slab of cheap fior latte, a dunk in beaten egg, a brief swim in hot oil. Neapolitan housewives invented this to rescue the heel of the loaf and the rind of the cheese during the lean years after the First World War. The carrozza means carriage because the bread carries the cheese like a coach. Cost in 1926 around 50 centesimi. The Accademia della Cucina documents this dish across more than 30 regional variations. We order grilled cheese from an app and pay €9 for delivery. She made it on a paraffin stove in 8 minutes flat. Number 21, panino con la milza. A soft sesame roll, split, stuffed with boiled and chopped spleen and lung, dressed with grated caciocavallo and a squeeze of lemon. Palermo street vendors called Panelli Uncles sold this from copper pots at the Vucceria market from the 1870s onwards. The offal cost almost nothing because the wealthy households did not want it. A whole sandwich went for 30 centesimi in 1931. The Municipal Archive of Palermo still holds the vendors' licenses. We pay €15 for a Wagyu burger and call it bold. He ate the parts no one else wanted and turned them into a city's signature dish. Number 20, pane cunzato. Sicilian bread from a wood-fired oven, opened while still warm, anointed with olive oil, draped with anchovies, sliced tomato, oregano, a flake of salted ricotta, a single thin onion ring. Fishermen in Trapani assembled this at dawn before going out to the tuna nets, and farmers in the interior copied it for the harvest. The word cunzato means dressed up, because for poor families this was the dressed up version of plain bread. Cost in 1948 about 80 lire. Slow Food's Arc of Taste protects 3 regional versions. We assemble a Mediterranean bowl from a chain restaurant for 16 euros. He ate it standing on a stone wall, watching the sun come up. Look at what we have just counted down. 5 sandwiches, 5 regions, 5 centuries of survival, and not one of them costs more than a coin. The Italian historian Massimo Montanari, in his work for the University of Bologna, argues that the genius of cucina povera was never in the ingredients, but in the refusal to throw anything away. A stale loaf was not a problem. It was the foundation of tomorrow's lunch. The hard rind of cheese was not waste. It was the seasoning for next week's soup. We have built an entire economy on the idea that food expires. Our great-grandparents built a civilization on the idea that food evolves. That is the difference. Now back to the countdown. Number 19. Panino con le panelle. A soft Palermitan roll filled with 3 or 4 chickpea flour fritters, salt, lemon, black pepper. Originally a Saracen recipe brought to Sicily in the 9th century, it became the breakfast of dock workers in the port of Palermo from the 1860s onwards. The chickpea flour cost almost nothing. A whole sandwich went for 20 centesimi in 1929. The Sicilian Regional Food Heritage Register lists panelle as a protected traditional product. We pay 7 euros for a falafel wrap from a food truck in Rome. He paid the equivalent of a tram ticket and walked to work fed. Number 18. Pane e ricotta. A heel of country bread, a generous spoon of fresh sheep's ricotta, a drizzle of dark honey, or a sprinkle of sugar depending on the household. Sardinian shepherds carried this in a cloth knotted at 4 corners through the entire transhumance from spring to autumn. The ricotta came from the morning milking. The bread came from the village oven. The honey came from the wild rosemary on the hillside. Total cost, almost nothing. The University of Cagliari's Oral History Project recorded shepherds in the 1960s who had eaten this same lunch every working day of their lives. We buy a protein bar at a service station for 3 euros. He ate the same sandwich for 40 years and walked 20 kilometers a day until he was 80. Number 17. Panino con la porchetta avanzata. Not the fresh porchetta sold at festivals. The leftover porchetta. The ends, the burnt bits, the gelatinous scraps the butcher sold off cheap on Monday morning after the Sunday celebration. Stuffed into a crusty rosetta with a smear of mustard or just a pinch of salt. Roman office cleaners and tram drivers ate this every Monday from the 1930s through the 1970s. Cost around 100 lire in 1960. The Roman Tradesmen's Union archives record porchetta avanzata as the standard Monday packed lunch. We queue for an hour at a famous panino shop and pay 12 euros. He ate the leftovers and was happier. Number 16. Pane e fici. A split panino, a halved fresh fig, a curl of prosciutto end, if the family could afford it, otherwise just the fig. Calabrian farm children ate this walking home from school every September from the 1880s through the 1950s. The fig tree grew over the courtyard wall. The bread came from the hearth. There was no cost. The Calabrian Folklore Society's 1949 survey of rural childhood meals named this the most common after-school food in the region. We pack our children a fruit bar with 17 ingredients and call it healthy. She handed them a fig and a crust, and they ran out of the door. Number 15. Panino con I broccoli affogati. Drowned broccoli, slow cooked in a pan with olive oil, garlic, anchovy, a splash of red wine, until they collapsed into a savory jam, then piled into a chewy ciabatta. Tuscan field hands ate this at the autumn olive harvest from the early 1900s. The broccoli were the woody ones the market would not sell. The wine was the dregs of the cellar, cost almost nothing. The Tuscan Agricultural Archive records this as the standard mid-morning meal of olive pickers from 1910 through 1965. We pay €9 for a vegan wrap with quinoa and feel virtuous. He ate yesterday's broccoli and pruned the trees that gave us our oil. Number 14, panino con l'interiora di tonno. The bit Trapani fishermen made this at dawn after the Matanza, the spring tuna catch, from the 1860s through the 1960s. The flesh went to the canneries. The interiora went to the men. A whole sandwich cost 15 centesimi in 1933. Health inspectors in Palermo briefly banned street sales in 1938 on hygiene grounds, but the vendors carried on regardless. The Slow Food Presidium for traditional Sicilian tuna still preserves the recipe. We pay €22 for a tuna tartare in a Milan restaurant. He ate the heart of the fish and rode home. Number 13, pane e mortadella avanzata, not a thick slice of fresh mortadella, the end. The dry, oxidized end of the sausage that the deli sold for a quarter of the price on a Saturday afternoon. Chopped fine, mixed with a spoon of olive oil and a little chopped parsley to revive it, then stuffed into a soft michetta. Bolognese tram conductors and factory workers ate this for decades from the 1920s onwards. Cost around 20 lire in 1955. The Bologna Municipal Food History Project documents this as the most common workman's panino in the city throughout the post-war period. We refuse to buy the deli end and ask for the middle slice. She bought the end on purpose because she knew how to make it taste better than the middle. Notice what keeps appearing: the end, the leftover, the bit no one else wanted. Istat, the Italian National Statistics Institute, published a study in 2022 showing that the average Italian household now throws away the equivalent of €130 of food every month. €130 per month. Your nonna would have wept, not because of the money, because of the disrespect. Every ingredient in her kitchen had passed through human hands, from the field to the mill to the market to her own. To throw any of it away was to insult those hands. We have lost that chain of respect. The sandwich was never just lunch, it was an act of gratitude. Now back to the list. Number 12. Panino con la cicoria ripassata. Wild chicory, foraged from the verges of country roads, boiled, then refried with garlic and chili, stuffed into a crusty bread with a slice of pecorino. Roman housewives in Trastevere taught their daughters to identify chicory from the age of 6. From the 1870s until the 1960s, this was the standard Lenten lunch for working families across Lazio. The cost was nothing. The chicory was free, the bread was yesterday's, the cheese was a thin shaving. The Roman Botanical Society has documented over 40 edible wild greens still found within the city's boundaries. We pay €11 for a kale salad. She picked her greens from the side of the road and fed her family for free. Number 11. Pane e zucchero. Stale bread, a dribble of red wine to soften it, a sprinkle of sugar. That was the entire recipe. Northern Italian children in Lombardy and Piedmont ate this as an after-school treat from the 1890s through the 1950s. The wine was the bottom of the bottle. The sugar was rationed during the war years. The bread was always stale. The pediatrician Carlo Cataneo wrote in 1936 that this snack, while alarming to modern doctors, kept thousands of working-class children fed and content. We give our children a 100-calorie snack pack with a cartoon character on it for €2. She gave them bread and wine and they slept like stones. Number 10. Panino con la trippa. Tripe, slow stewed in tomato and mint, spooned into a sturdy Florentine semele and eaten standing up at the market. Florentine porters and butchers' apprentices ate this every working day from the 1860s onwards. The tripe was a byproduct of the slaughterhouse, sold for almost nothing to the trippai who set up wooden carts at the Mercato Centrale. A panino cost 40 centesimi in 1928. The Florence Municipal Market Archive lists tripai as one of the oldest registered street trades in the city. We turn our nose up at offal and pay €18 for a Wagyu slider. He ate stomach lining for breakfast and lived to 92. Number 9. Pane e cipolla. A heel of bread, a raw white onion sliced into rings, salt, oil. That is the whole sandwich. Venetian gondoliers and Friulian farmhands ate this through the 1940s and 50s. The onion was strong enough to keep the cold out. The bread was sturdy enough to last a long shift. The whole meal cost less than 10 lire. The Venetian Folklore Archive records this as the single most common boatman's lunch through the entire post-war reconstruction. We will not eat raw onion before a meeting. He ate it before rowing tourists across the lagoon and never apologized. Number 8. Panino con le sarde a beccafico. Sardines, butterflied, stuffed with breadcrumbs, pine nuts, raisins, parsley, rolled and baked, then folded cold into a soft Sicilian roll. Originally a noble dish that imitated the eating of small songbirds, the poor of Palermo recreated it with cheap sardines from the early 1900s. Cost in 1946 around 60 lire. The Sicilian Cultural Heritage Register protects beccafico as an intangible cultural asset. We pay €19 for a sardine plate at a tapas bar. She made the entire dish from a tin of fish and the ends of stale bread, and it tasted like the sea. Here is where things get interesting. Count the ingredients across these last 17 sandwiches: bread, oil, salt, garlic, onion, tomato, fish, cheese, leftover meat, foraged greens. That is almost the entire pantry. The University of Naples Federico II published research in 2019 showing that the traditional southern Italian diet, built on these same 10 or 12 ingredients, gave the people of the Cilento region the longest life expectancy in the Western world. Not the supplements, not the superfoods. The bread, the oil, the onion, the tomato. Your great-grandmother did not know she was eating the world's healthiest diet. She just knew it was what she had. Now the final 7. Number 7. Pane acciughe, a slice of country bread. Genoese Maritime Museum displays the actual tin lunchboxes the workers carried, still smelling faintly of fish 100 years later. We buy anchovies in a glass jar with a designer label for €14. He ate them for breakfast and unloaded ships until sunset. Number 6. Panino con la peperonata avanzata. Yesterday's stewed peppers, cold from the fridge or the cool pantry, piled into a panino with a slice of provola. Campanian housewives made a huge pot of peperonata on Sunday, and the leftovers became the family's lunches all week. From the 1920s through the 1970s, this was the standard Tuesday and Wednesday packed lunch for school children across the Naples hinterland. The peppers were grown in the courtyard. The cost was nothing. The Campanian Regional Food Heritage Program lists peperonata as the most documented home-cooked vegetable dish in the region. We refuse to eat the same meal twice in a week. She made one pot last 5 days and nobody complained. Number 5. Pane e prosciutto cotto avanzato. The thin, hard, dry slice of cooked ham left at the bottom of the bag, the one that had curled up at the edges, crisped briefly in a hot pan with a smear of butter, then sandwiched between 2 soft slices with a sliver of fontina. Piedmontese factory workers in Turin ate this at the Fiat plant from the 1950s through the 1970s. Cost around 30 lire in 1962. The Turin Industrial Heritage Foundation has collected hundreds of oral histories from Fiat workers describing this same panino. We throw the dry edge of the ham in the bin without thinking. He revived it in a pan and built the cars that put Italy back on the road. Number 4. Pane e Zabibbo, a heel of stale bread soaked briefly in sweet Zabibbo wine from Pantelleria, then sprinkled with raw sugar and grated lemon zest. Sicilian field workers ate this as a hangover cure and a mid-morning energy boost from the 1890s through the 1950s. The wine was a splash from the bottom of the demijohn. The sugar was a teaspoon. The lemon paid €9 for a hangover smoothie at a juice bar. He ate sweet wine on bread, drank a glass of water, and went back to the vines. Number 3. Panino con le polpette al sugo avanzate. Yesterday's meatballs, cold or briefly warmed, crushed with a fork into the soft inside of a ciabatta. The tomato sauce smeared on the bread to soak in. Calabrian and Sicilian families across the diaspora carried this recipe to America, Argentina, and Australia from the early 1900s onwards. The meatballs stretched 100 grams of mince to feed 8 people. The sauce was Sunday's gravy. Cost on Monday, almost nothing. The Italian-American Heritage Foundation in New York holds an entire archive devoted to the lunchbox panino your grandfather opened on the construction site at noon. We pay €16 for a meatball sub from a chain. Your nonno wrapped his in butcher paper and it tasted like home. Number 2. Pane e cioccolato. A piece of stale bread, a square of dark cheap cooking chocolate, sometimes a smear of butter. Northern Italian children in Lombardy, Veneto and Piedmont ate this as the universal merenda from the 1910s through the 1970s. The chocolate was perugina, or a generic baker's bar, broken from a slab and weighed by the etto. The bread was always the day before's. Cost in 1958 around 40 lira. The Perugina Company archive in Perugia displays the original wartime advertising that targeted exactly this snack. We buy a chocolate hazelnut spread in a plastic jar for €6. She broke a square of bitter chocolate onto a hard crust and called it Tuesday. Number 1. Panino con la frittata di pasta avanzata. The Neapolitan grandmothers invented this from desperation in the 1800s and perfected it through every hardship since, from the unification of Italy in 1861 through both world wars and into the 1970s. This was the most common packed lunch in southern Italy. Cost almost nothing. Slow Food Italy lists frittata di macaroni as the single most documented act of culinary recycling in the Mediterranean. The Naples Diaspora Foundation in Buenos Aires has collected over 3,000 family recipes for it. We scrape leftover pasta into the bin every night. She turned it into the lunch your father remembered for the rest of his life. So there it is, 25 sandwiches, 5 regions, more than a century of hunger, ingenuity and love. Here is your challenge. Try 3 of them this week. The penne e pomodoro from number 23. The mozzarella in carrozza from number 22, and the frittata di pasta from number 1. Make them on a Sunday afternoon with whatever you have in the cupboard. I have made the last 3 myself, more times than I can count, and I can tell you the frittata di pasta tastes better at room temperature on a park bench than any restaurant panino I have ever paid for. Come back and tell me which one you tried. Better yet, vote in the comments. Pane e pomodoro or frittata di pasta? Which one wins your kitchen this week? Your nonna knew, your nonno knew, now you know too.